Okay, we're going to go backwards this week. I hemmed and hawed for a few minutes about starting at the Old Testament and moving that direction, and I decided we're gonna start at the Gospel. So these are the videos for, what is it, Proper 14, Lectionary 19, for August 9th, 2026, the 11th Sunday after Pentecost. This is your video number 1. If you started with the Old Testament, that's fine. It'll always be okay. But I'm going to start making these with the Gospel. If you're just joining us and you don't know what I'm talking about, the propers are the way with the lectionary chart that we know what Sunday we're on after the Sundays of Pentecost. We spend most of the church year in the Sundays after Pentecost. There's more Sundays in that season than any other season of the church year, right? Because Advent has 4 Sundays, Christmas has 2 or 3, Epiphany has between 5 and 9, Lent has 5, Easter has 7, and then we come to the season after Pentecost, and there can be 26 to 31 of those Sundays. And so they're described by what their proper is, and the propers determine what the collect of that Sunday is, and some pieces in the Eucharistic liturgy. And so you can count, obviously, the Sundays after Pentecost, but to be really precise about what the readings are, we use the proper and the lectionary designation, and that may be a little bit confusing, but you don't have to worry about it. I'm going to tell you what the readings are and what week they're for, and that's okay. But if you want to go a little deeper and use your lectionary chart, we're doing the videos, the readings for Proper 14, and we're in year A. There's 3 lectionary years. We're in year A. And so we're going to start, video number 1 this week is with the Gospel. So we're in Matthew chapter 14. We just spent 3 weeks on Matthew chapter 13. There was a lot in there. Now we're moving to Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 31. And my bad, we were in Matthew 13 last week also. Sorry. Okay, so now Matthew 22 to 33. This is Jesus walking on the water, and Peter being an idiot and getting out of the boat. So what has just happened? John the Baptist was killed by Herod. Jesus is devastated because that was not only his cousin, but also the forerunner who prepared the way for his entire earthly ministry. Jesus wants to be alone, to grieve, and to sort of process the death of his cousin. Obviously, he's the second person of the Trinity. He knew that there was going to come this day. This did not catch him off guard, but he's still a human being, and he still loved John, and he needs to grieve. And so last week, there were all these people who were looking for him, and he ministered to them. He met their needs because he is the Christ, the Messiah, and he's here for the people. But now he's done. He did what they needed, and now he needs to be alone. So that's where we are when we start this reading. Matthew chapter 14, verse 22. Immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he sent the multitudes away. It's now Jesus's time to be alone and to do the things that he needs for his own heart. After a death, there's a lot of things that need to happen, and sometimes you have to set aside your grief and just take care of the things and take care of the people, and Jesus did that, and now it's his time. Disciples, go away. People, go away. I'm sure that isn't how he said it, but he has arranged things now where he can be alone and just grieve and just commune with his Father in everything that he is experiencing at the death of his cousin, who was the forerunner for his ministry. After he sent them away, he went up to the mountain by himself to pray, and when it was evening, he was there alone. that's how he refills his tank. He has just heard the news, and obviously as Christ, he would also not have needed to hear the news. He would have known immediately the instant that this was done. But the news has come to them that John is dead by the hand of Herod. So now he needs to pray and go through what we all go through when we receive word that someone has died. There's work. You go to God, you go to the Father when that happens, and that's what Jesus did. Verse 24, the boat was already far, far away. This says many stadia. We in America don't measure distances in stadia. That was their unit of measure back then. It's a long way away from the shore. And then we learn that it is battered by the waves, for the wind was contrary. This would not have been terribly unusual for the Sea of Galilee. And they happened to have in the boat with them a whole lot of pretty decent fishermen who had grown up. That's what they did. That's what their dads did. They knew this sea. That was their backyard. That's where they cut their teeth. But this night, it's rather unusual. It's pretty bad. It says in the fourth watch of the night, that's at about 3 o'clock in the morning, so not a time that regular people are out doing things. He came to them walking on the sea. Like, no big deal. Jesus just sort of shows up. This is one thing that proves that he is the Lord of creation. Remember back in Genesis, God spoke. Who is Jesus? He's the Word. Christ, the second person of the Trinity, the Son of God, was present with God the Father always from eternity. It is Christ, the second person of the Trinity, who did the creating. God the Father spoke it. Christ, the Word, made the things happen. This is mysterious. We don't know exactly how. And that's good, because God needs to be way bigger than us and have things that are mysterious about him. Otherwise, we would know everything, and then that isn't a God that we want to worship. So here's the Lord of creation walking on a sea that's really stormy. Walk on any water. Nobody does that. Okay, especially not at 3 o'clock in the morning, especially not after feeding tens of thousands of people, especially not in a time where they had just received this devastating news. There's a lot going on. This is not just an isolated, disciples are in a boat, Jesus is walking on the water. They have experienced a whole lot emotionally, spiritually, physically. Their tanks are empty. Jesus just got his refilled. It's evening. He sends everybody away. He spends in prayer from evening, say 6 p.m. till 3 a.m. praying. Jesus's tank is full. He's got everything that he needs. The disciples haven't. Their tanks are empty. They're devastated, certainly, about John, and they've just served all these thousands and tens of thousands of people. And they're in a boat, which not all of them would have been familiar and comfortable with, and it's a storm, and it's the freaking middle of the night. And here comes this thing. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were frightened, saying, "It is a ghost." These are grown-ups, right? Some of them were trained as really incredible fighters. Some of them were really solid fishermen. One of them was really good with math and numbers. Grown-ups don't believe in ghosts, right? That isn't a thing. but they are so freaked out, they are so emotionally, physically, and spiritually depleted that they are out of their minds. They cannot figure out what is happening. They are so scared and so without that they say it's a ghost. Obviously, that's not real, but they're freaking out. They're losing their minds. And they cried out for fear. But immediately, Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." Remember, he is the Word. He gives them words. Do not be afraid. It's me. It's Jesus. It's your rabbi. It's your teacher. It's your buddy. It's the guy you've been living with and walking around doing all this stuff with for the last little bit, maybe a year. They're a year into Jesus's 3-year ministry. He tells them who he is. He presents himself physically to them, and he tells them who he is, and then he tells them, don't be afraid. Why does he say that? Because he knows that they are already afraid. And this is what Jesus does for us when we're scared. He knows we're scared. He tells us, don't be scared, but he knows that we are. And so he reassures us, I am here. I am with you. It's okay. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. Peter is nuts. It's just, he does this again and again and again. Things that are retarded, frankly. Nobody does this. There is a storm that is so big and so bad that even the fishermen, which Peter was one of, can't get over their fear. They have no resources available to them that are enough, that are sufficient for this situation of this storm. Peter grew up on the sea, but this is freaking him out. And so his response to this is, hey, tell me to do that. I want to do that too, which is great. We should want to be where Jesus is and to use whatever, means possible to get to him, and not worry about what is impossible. We can't walk on water, but Peter had enough faith in who Jesus was, to say, well, I want to do that too. I want to follow you. And later at the Last Supper, Jesus tells him, oh, you will, buddy, you're going to follow me. Just buckle up for that. Peter was also crucified. That's how he died. He didn't feel like he was worthy enough of Jesus to be crucified like Jesus, so he was crucified upside down, which would have been probably even more painful and excruciating. So right here, Peter is just retarded. He's like, okay, if it is, then tell me to come to you. I want to do that too. That's nuts. And this is verse 29. Jesus said, come. And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. The Lord of creation gets to suspend the laws of physics and nature when and if and to the extent that he wants. We don't get to tell him when that is, or what it looks like, or how it's going to work. This was God's will at that time. We don't have the right to demand stuff like that of God. Peter was special. Peter had a special place among the disciples. Jesus, incarnate Christ, was physically present with them. And these things are in their own category. Okay. This isn't for us to go around challenging Jesus, challenging the laws of physics, demanding that Jesus suspend the laws of creation for us, even if our hearts really want to be with him. This is also why we don't commit suicide, to get to God faster and close the gap of our lives. That's not for us. We don't pick the time and the way. Peter is acting crazy here. His heart is in the right place. He's super scared. He's super deplete. He wants to be with Jesus. Jesus says, okay, this time we're going to do that. That isn't normal, and that isn't how things usually go. That isn't to say that he was off base, but we, in this modern day, do not get to pick that. And it doesn't go very well, right? Verse 30, seeing the wind, Peter became afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. Peter realizes this shouldn't be happening. I can't deal with this. All of this is just too much. It's too overwhelming. If you watch The Chosen, this episode is dynamite. I don't know that there are any episodes that aren't, but this one is incredible. They filmed this really, really well. It's really cool. I highly recommend it. And immediately, verse 31, immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and took hold of him and said to him, Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Peter has a special place in the disciples, and Jesus looks at him and says, come on, man. You had it for a minute, and then you lost it. Where's your faith? You knew that it was me, but then you looked at all the stuff around you. This flips us back to the parable in Matthew 13 with the seeds, right? Chapter 13, verse 31. Whoever doesn't have firm root, but is only temporary, when affliction or persecution arises, immediately he falls away. That's what happens here to Peter. The disciples, they get all this time with Jesus, right? They're physically present with him. They live with him. They walk with him. They eat and sleep with him. Their lives are indistinguishable, but they didn't get it. We're 2,000 years later. We have the benefit of all of their mistakes, all of their trials and failures, and we still don't get it either. The stuff around us scares us, depletes us, and isn't how we want it to be. And so we cry out, Lord, save me. And he looks at us like, what are you doing down there? I'm here. I've given you my word. I've told you who I am. I've revealed in every way possible what is happening. I've given you creation. I've given you my word. What is the problem? Jesus doesn't say that, but that's kind of the implied. What is the problem? Why? Why can't we trust that he is who he says he is, and he's going to continue to act how he says he's going to act? He loves us. There isn't anything else that we need. So when we're in the storm, we're in the boat, we've got waves crashing and lightning flashing and thunder booming, and the boat is getting swamped, and we think we're going to drown. We're going to die. We don't have what it takes to face all of this. That is every single one of us, every moment of our lives. We don't have what it takes. He gives us everything. It all comes from him, and it is enough. And we go again and again and again, like I always bring up, Acts 2, continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship, in the breaking of the bread and in the prayers, the life of the disciple. And that's why we're having this reading here in the Green Sundays. See all this green? We spend 26 weeks in the Green Sundays. What does it mean to be a disciple of Christ? What do we need? What are we supposed to do? Who is Jesus again? What difference does that make? That's what the Sundays after Pentecost are for. It teaches us how to be disciples. That's why we have this reading this time. Because we all do this. We're all Peter. Oh, Lord, I really, really, really want to be with you. I want to do what you do, and I want to be really close. I want to follow in your footsteps. And Jesus says, great, let's go. And then we get there, and we're like, oh, shit. It's scary. It's hard. I don't like it. It's not what I thought it would be like. And Jesus says, oh, you of little faith. Why did you doubt? Come on. Come on. I've got you. I'm going to clean you up. I'm going to set you down, and we'll do this again. And he is so tender and so patient and so parent-like with the ways that we screw this up again and again and again and again and again with the circumstances of our lives. We get in a situation that we can't handle, which is all of them, and we freak out, just like Peter. Verse 32, they got into the boat and the wind stopped. The Lord of creation. Everything is at his command. There is nothing that is outside of his ability to take care of. Nothing. Nothing in our lives falls outside his care. And we can rest there. And he wants us to rest there. In his hand, in his boat, in his arms, wherever it is that you need to be, he's holding that out to you. Verse 33, those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, you are certainly God's Son. The only place in Matthew's gospel that this has happened prior to this moment is over in Matthew 2, verse 11, where the Magi have come from the east. Jesus is a couple years old, and they bring him gifts, and they know who he is, and they worship him, because that is the only appropriate response to knowing that he is here, knowing who he is, and trusting that he's going to take care of whatever it is that we are facing. We worship him. This is the antidote, worship, to fear, to physical depletion, to overwhelm by number of circumstances that don't fit what we want them to be. Worship. That's why we continue in the apostles' teaching and fellowship and the breaking of bread and in the prayers. We go to church every week, no matter what, no matter how we feel, no matter if there's something else that we would rather do, or, something over there that looks shiny, or we just, we've got too much going on. We worship. Yes, he's certainly God's Son. How many ways has he revealed that to us? Oh, us of little faith. Why do we doubt?